The film begins on a horse farm with the introduction of James Dial, a former Special Forces man who has worked with the CIA's anti-terrorism team. James has a fearsome reputation for his impressive skills in single-handedly neutralizing terrorists. Collins, his previous commander, unexpectedly arrives and hires James for a clandestine assignment involving a terrorist named Ali Mahmoud Jahar. Despite a prior failed attempt to catch Ali, Collins reports that Ali is currently detained in the United Kingdom but remains a threat, necessitating James's elimination of him before he orchestrates more strikes in America. Collins thinks James is the best candidate because he understands Ali's cognitive processes. James immediately accepts the opportunity since he is intrigued by the proposition. When he arrives in England, he is met by Terry, a clandestine operative who will aid him with the operation. Terry receives instructions from Collins over the phone and prudently records them for future reference. They quickly plan a strategy to stop Ali Mahmoud. They go to a church the next day, expecting Ali to be there, reenacting a bombing. The crowds are thick, and the police are on high alert to ensure that the reenactment runs smoothly. In the midst of this, James disguises himself as a priest in order to safely penetrate the church. He anticipates the opportunity to eliminate Ali by positioning his sniper rifle on the church roof. However, his congested surroundings force him to wait. He eventually seizes the opportunity, firing the shot and successfully neutralizing Ali. James descends quickly and exits quietly through the rear. Terry arrives to pick him up, but in an attempt to flee, Terry is shot by a distant police officer. The car loses control and crashes. Despite his injuries, James manages to stand and bomb the car to destroy any proof. Soon after Ali's shooting, authorities initiate an investigation led by Inspector Annette, a talented law enforcement officer recognized for apprehending criminals. Collins is having conversations with the police chief Andrew, Annette's father, at the same time. Collins begs them not to pursue James' arrest, citing his status as a U.S. citizen. Nonetheless, an unexpected revelation arises. Collins had James shot on purpose to give the impression that he was the one who shot Ali. Despite Collins' directive, Andrew argues that, because the incident occurred in England, local police should question James first, as they have no other choice. Collins grudgingly agrees to Andrew's approach, and the two resolve to work together to apprehend James. Meanwhile, James seeks safety in an apartment that Terry had secured for him. Unexpectedly, a young lady named Emily enters, claiming to be looking for her lost cat but, in truth, keeping a close eye on James. James exposes his close relationship with Terry, and because Emily looks up to Terry, she trusts James. Emily goes above and beyond by bringing James first aid kits and meals. She explains that she resides with her grandma because her parents were working abroad. Soon after that, Emily sees a TV news program with Terry's photo and is overcome with sadness when she learns of his death. She inquires about the circumstances surrounding Terry and James, but James is hesitant to go into detail. The next day, the police obtain CCTV footage that appears to link James to the case. However, suspecting Collins' motivations, Andrew gently encourages Inspector Annette to halt the investigation without notifying Collins. Andrew has a sneaking suspicion that Collins is not fully trustworthy. Simultaneously, James contacts Collins to discuss his situation. Collins informs James that he would fix the matter and make his return to the United States as easy as possible. However, as James wonders why Collins hasn't sent help sooner, he begins to have questions about Collins's true concern for James's safety. James makes the resolute decision to quit the mission and return to America on his own. Security staff closely investigate him at the airport, causing James to think that British police has sent undercover spies. James devises a brilliant trick to identify these spies by announcing on the airport speakers. When the undercover agents take the bait, he quickly retreats to the storage room, adopting a strategy he frequently utilized in the dark to outwit and disable opponents by shutting off the power. James easily defeats the undercover operatives in a matter of seconds. Andrew emerges out of nowhere, pointing a gun at James. To defuse the tension, James claims that he is simply carrying out Collins' directions and has no ill intent. Shortly, a gunshot pierces the air as Andrew listens to James's explanation. Collins fired the gun, striking Andrew in a desperate attempt. Collins also attempts to eliminate James on the spot, but the former Special Forces operative eludes him. As a result, James disguises himself as a pilot to ensure a safe evacuation from the airport. Annette, on the other hand, is taken aback when she discovers her father's death. Annette is eager to exact vengeance on James because she suspects him of causing harm to her father before fleeing. Annette and her colleagues successfully track down James that night. She orders her special troops to investigate Terry's flat, but Emily, who has observed the events unfold, persuades James to take refuge in her apartment. The cops are unable to locate James due to Emily's intervention. Annette, frustrated, decides to escalate the pursuit by releasing James's photo to all English media sources. Meanwhile, Collins becomes increasingly concerned as a trial in connection with James's case approaches in the United States. If Collins fails to apprehend him, James's testimony could lead to his imprisonment. Collins is also up against a tight timetable, with only 3 days to apprehend James. James takes refuge at a warehouse owned by Emily's family at the time. He comes across a box containing Emily's late parents' possessions while exploring the premises. Among them is a newspaper item detailing their terrible death in a car accident. Emily had clearly created a false narrative to protect herself from the tremendous sadness. Emily enters the warehouse shortly after this revelation and informs James that his face has been extensively publicized in the media. James pays Beloit a visit the next day, feeling compelled to leave England. Terry's source, Beloit, who is proficient in creating disguises and forging fake passports, is critical of James assuming a new name and obtaining a passport. Initially hesitant since he is aware that James is being pursued by the police, Harris eventually agrees to help when provided money. However, as James is leaving, Beloit learns that the police are offering a substantial reward for anyone who could locate James. With this, he immediately reports James to the police. Meanwhile, James returns to his hiding place, patiently awaiting the preparation of his new passport. Emily discovers a detail about James's jacket. It used to belong to her father, who had worn it frequently before his departure. James, seeing through Emily's lies, persuades her to accept the death of her parents. In an attempt to lighten the mood, James tells Emily stories about his pet horse, which make her smile. As James prepares to pick up his passport, he tells Emily to return to her grandmother's apartment. Emily, on the other hand, has other intentions and proclaims her determination to assist James, believing that the police are closing in. Emily goes into Beloit's store without hesitation, only to learn that Annette and her gang had already entered the area. Emily takes command, discreetly signaling for James to stay away. Meanwhile, Collins unexpectedly interrupts Annette's operation, unable to contemplate the possibility of James being captured by British authorities. Fearing for her safety, Annette, on the other hand, pays no attention to Collins and immediately commands her team to go after James. Collins and his henchmen join the chase in an attempt to outmaneuver them. Fortunately, James has abilities that allow him to disappear from their sight, alluding to capture. Emily retires to her room to sleep as the night grows darker. But, to her astonishment, James is already there. James has come to say his goodbyes to Emily since he is preparing to give himself in to the cops. Just before leaving, he notices a laptop that looks similar to Terry's, which turns out to be a present from Terry. Terry had recorded conversations with Collins, which provides evidence that Collins is the mastermind behind the terrorist shooting, according to James. Meanwhile, Collins and his goons are close on James' tail, sure that they would catch him shortly. The next day, James resolves to contact Annette and provide a thorough explanation from the start. He reveals that Collins is the mastermind behind the terrorist shooting and the murder of his father. Annette is persuaded to meet with James alone in order to provide more compelling proof. Before the meeting, James asks Emily for a shortcut to avoid the cops and asks that if he doesn't make it, she turn over Terry's laptop to the cops. After overcoming challenges, James arrives at the meeting spot and hands Annette a recording containing evidence of Collins' actions over the previous few years. Despite James' aid, Annette is adamant about following the correct protocols for his arrest. Collins suddenly fires a shot at James, knocking him to the ground. Annette runs to protect James as Collins and his goons draw in. Unexpectedly, James rises off the ground and fights back. Following that, James offers to Annette that they collaborate, telling her that he would not deal with them in the customary manner. James leads them into a dark train tunnel and launches a surprise attack from an unexpected angle, frightening his pursuers. Recognizing Annette's horror at his roughness, he suggests she go first. Meanwhile, James remains intent on neutralizing his opponents. James sets a trap with a rope and shoots Colin's henchmen in the face, bringing them into a building that is being renovated. He makes it difficult for them to fight back, defeating them in unrelenting combat and fleeing to a hotel. Collins notices him and pursues him. In a stressful confrontation, James keeps calm, deceiving Collins by shooting at a smoke screen and altering his position unnoticed. James then shoots Collins on the ear, causing him to come out of hiding. Both James and Collins are critically injured during the shootout. Collins died because he couldn't keep up with James. Annette takes her squad to the hotel, but Collins is dead and James has gone missing. Annette provides proof of Collins' misdeeds, which leads to the arrest of the remainder of his network members. Meanwhile, Emily runs into the injured James and expresses her desire to follow him. However, given Emily's family in England and his uncertain future, James elects to travel alone. Annette approaches Emily after James has left and confesses that she has purposefully enabled James to flee since he had saved her life. Several months later, James sends Emily and her grandma a letter, as well as 2 plane tickets to the United States. He invited them to his house to train horses with him, bringing the movie to the end. Thanks for watching. If you are new, don't forget to subscribe for more of these recaps. Until next time, have a nice time.